Carlos Alcaraz finished 2025 as the world number one, but as December approaches, the ATP has delivered a financial blow that neither he nor his team expected. After one of the greatest seasons of his career, filled with 11 finals, dramatic battles against Jannik Sinner, and historic victories in Roland Garros and the US Open, most people assumed the year would close with a massive bonus check. But the rules of the ATP bonus structure have struck hard, and the world number one has lost half of the Christmas bonus he was supposed to receive. This unusual situation has caused surprise across the tennis world, not because the rules are new, but because fans rarely notice how the financial system behind the ATP punishes even the top players for missing mandatory events. The Masters 1000 participation bonus is one of the biggest extra payments an ATP player can receive. If a player competes in all 9 Masters 1000 tournaments in a single season, the reward is enormous: $4.88 million. For many players, even top 10 ones, this represents a huge part of their earnings. However, for each Masters 1000 tournament a player misses due to injury or withdrawal, the bonus is reduced by 25%, up to a maximum of 3 events. Missing 4 means losing the entire reward. Jannik Sinner, for example, missed Indian Wells, Miami, Madrid, and Canada, meaning he collected 0 from the bonus program. Carlos Alcaraz avoided that fate, but only partially. The Spaniard missed the Canada Open due to physical problems and then missed the Shanghai Masters during the final stretch of the season. These 2 absences triggered a 50% penalty. In theory, Alcaraz's $4.88 million bonus automatically became $2.44 million. But even that reduced amount was further trimmed because of specific deductions applied to his absence from Shanghai and the timing of his commitments in Madrid. In the end, instead of receiving nearly $5 million, Alcaraz collected only $2.07 million. Still, the world number one topped the season's bonus pool standings. The $21 million fund distributed to the 30 players who earned the most points across all 9 Masters 1000 events and the ATP finals. Through that system, Alcaraz secured $3.82 million, almost double what Sinner earned. The Italian, also punished financially due to skipping 4 Masters 1000 events, generated $1.91 million. For tennis fans, these numbers seem unreal, but for the players and their teams, they are an essential part of planning the season. Missing tournaments is not only about losing points, it affects millions of dollars, sponsorship leverage, and end-of-year financial rankings. In Alcaraz's case, this financial reduction proves how costly injuries and schedule management can be. Yet the financial story is only half of the equation. What truly caught the attention of Alcaraz's inner circle was not the money itself but the consequences it may have for his future decisions. The Spaniard has already turned the page and is looking toward 2026 with a mix of caution and ambition. He openly admits that his biggest target, both emotionally and historically, is the Australian Open, the one major missing from his career Grand Slam. For the team, the question is simple. Will Alcaraz push even harder in 2026, risking injury and repeating the same pattern that cost him millions this year? Or will he adopt a more conservative, strategic schedule to protect his body and extend his career? This debate has already begun, and according to sources close to his camp, Alcaraz has surprised everyone with a bold and unexpected decision. The surprise inside Carlos Alcaraz's team began when they realized he wasn't thinking of reducing his schedule for 2026. Instead, the world number one appears determined to do the opposite. After losing the Australian Open quarter-final against Novak Djokovic earlier this year, Alcaraz has openly stated that the Melbourne Slam has become an obsession, the one trophy that prevents him from completing the career Grand Slam and entering the elite group of Agassi, Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic. But what surprised his team most is not that he wants to win it. It's the method he wants to use to prepare for it. According to internal sources, Alcaraz has requested a much more intense preseason than the one he completed ahead of 2025, and he has made it clear that he wants to arrive at the Australian Open in maximum competitive mode, even if that means starting the season almost without rest. Some members of his team consider this decision risky, especially after the hamstring edema that forced him to skip Spain's Davis Cup campaign. However, Alcaraz has insisted that the injury is fully under control and that the only way to beat Novak Djokovic or Jannik Sinner in Australia is to arrive sharper, stronger, and more aggressive than ever. What caught even more attention was a private message he sent to his physical preparation staff: "I don't want caution. I want a challenge." Those 8 words, according to sources, created some tension. While the team values Alcaraz's competitiveness, they also remember that 2025 demanded everything from his body. He won 2 Grand Slams, reached 11 finals, and played more than 75 matches. The season pushed him close to his physical limit on more than one occasion. Asking for an even tougher load, especially during preseason, goes against the recommendations of several performance specialists, who believe his longevity could be compromised. But Alcaraz's mentality seems unshakable. He wants to erase the feeling he experienced after losing once again in Melbourne. The Australian Open is the only major where he has never reached the final, and he knows that Sinner, who won the tournament in 2024 and 2025, will arrive as the man to beat. The Italian success has deepened Alcaraz's determination. Their rivalry has become the center of the ATP world, and every big moment seems to be another chapter in the same ongoing battle. At the same time, Sinner has made a controversial decision that sparked debates across the tennis community. The Italian decided not to participate in the Davis Cup to rest and prepare for 2026, explaining that the current calendar makes it almost impossible for top players to compete every year. His comments about preferring a Davis Cup played every 2 years added more fuel to the controversy. Many tennis figures applauded his honesty. Others criticized him for abandoning his national team for a second consecutive year. Alcaraz saw these reactions closely and sent his own message to Sinner after their ATP final showdown. "I hope you're ready for next year, because I will be too." It sounded like a warning, not aggressive, but confident, intentional, almost prophetic. The world number one knows that every major trophy in 2026 will go through Sinner, and every Sinner trophy will go through him. Behind closed doors, some members of Alcaraz's team feared that this growing rivalry might push him into a dangerous zone, one in which ambition overtakes preservation. But Alcaraz rejected that idea completely. To him, competing at the highest possible intensity is the reason he plays. He refuses to slow down, and he refuses to compromise his goals, even if it means accepting more physical risks next season. As the discussions continue, one thing has become clear. The 2026 season will not be about comfort or caution. It will be about Alcaraz entering the year with the mindset of a challenger, not a defender, even though he sits at the top of the ATP world. Inside the ATP offices, the year-end financial report revealed one of the most unexpected outcomes of the entire 2025 season. Carlos Alcaraz and Sinner, the two dominant players of the year, both suffered significant economic setbacks despite their extraordinary on-court success. The bonus system for ATP Masters 1000 participation, one of the hidden engines behind player income, punished both players severely. And the numbers caught fans, journalists, and even their teams by surprise. For Alcaraz, the blow came from missing Canada and Shanghai. The rule is simple but brutal. If a top-ranked player doesn't appear in a Masters 1000 event, even due to injury, the annual bonus decreases by 25% for each missed tournament. Missing 3 events means losing 75% of the reward. Missing 4 means the bonus drops to 0, which is exactly what happened to Sinner. Alcaraz escaped that extreme fate only because he attended Madrid despite not playing a single match, fulfilling the tournament's required commitments and protecting his bonus from being reduced further. Still, the damage was undeniable. Instead of earning the full $4.8 million bonus, the world number one collected only $2.4 million, roughly half of what he could have taken home. Inside his team, there is no drama about the missing money, but there is frustration about what the ATP considers a highly inflexible rule. Several of his coaches believe the system punishes top players for injuries rather than protecting them, especially in a season as physically demanding as 2025. Sinner, meanwhile, lost the entirety of his Masters bonus. Because he missed Indian Wells, Miami, Madrid, and Canada, some due to injury, some due to schedule choices, the ATP automatically voided his eligibility. The Italian still had an extraordinary financial year thanks to titles, finals, and deep runs in Grand Slams. But the $4.8 million he lost due to the participation rule became one of the most discussed points in his country's press. Despite these financial penalties, Alcaraz and Sinner dominated the ATP bonus pool standings, which distributes more than $21 million among the players with the highest points total across the 9 Masters events and the ATP finals. Alcaraz topped the list, earning nearly $4 million. Sinner earned just under $2 million, less than expected but still substantial. The real surprise came from the consistency of their performances. Even with withdrawals, injuries, and a tension-filled calendar, nobody came close to their overall totals. For the rest of the tennis world, the financial gap between the top 2 and the rest continues to widen. While stars like Medvedev, Zverev, Rune, and Ruud produce strong seasons, their numbers in both prize money and bonus pool earnings remain far below the Alcaraz, Sinner axis. The rivalry between these two players is not only a sporting phenomenon, it has become an economic force shaping the entire tour. Meanwhile, tension continues to build around Alcaraz's decision to face 2026 with a heavier preseason. The team is divided. Some believe it is the correct approach to conquer the Australian Open, while others fear the long-term consequences. The Australian heat, the hard courts, and the quick turnaround from the off-season can easily trigger physical setbacks. The hamstring edema he suffered in November is still fresh in their memories. His medical team has been extremely cautious, insisting that small structural weaknesses must be monitored carefully if he wants to survive, not just perform. But Alcaraz refuses the cautious route. He believes that arriving to Melbourne in his most aggressive version is the only way to take down Sinner, Djokovic, or anyone else who stands in front of him. He wants rhythm. He wants intensity. He wants challenge. In parallel, the ATP's debate about the Davis Cup format continues heating up. Sinner's comments about wanting the competition to be played every 2 years echoed strongly across the circuit. Many top players privately agree but refuse to say it publicly. Alcaraz, on the other hand, supported the idea indirectly by saying the calendar is not sustainable long-term, especially for players fighting deep in Grand Slams and Masters tournaments. The truth is simple. The top of the ATP Tour is changing at a speed not seen since the Big Three era. The choices made now, in December, will shape the entire 2026 season. And between ambition, money, rules, injuries, and rivalry, the pressure surrounding both Alcaraz and Sinner has never been higher. As the 2025 season officially closed, the tennis world shifted its attention toward a deeper and increasingly complex question. What kind of future awaits a sport dominated by two players whose rivalry is as demanding physically as it is mentally? Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner have reached a level of performance that forces every decision they make, every training session, every tournament choice, every medical evaluation, to become a strategic puzzle. And this is precisely where Alcaraz's latest decision has stunned his team. Just weeks after losing the ATP Finals title to Sinner, Alcaraz announced to his inner circle that he wants to start 2026 by entering every single early season event leading up to the Australian Open. While most top players reduce their preseason tournaments to preserve physical energy, Alcaraz is choosing the opposite path. He wants rhythm, match pressure, repetition, and exposure to extreme conditions. He wants to land in Melbourne feeling not rested, but sharpened like a blade. His coaches, especially Juan Carlos Ferrero, were divided. Some argued that Alcaraz's body, after the hamstring edema diagnosed in November, should follow a protective plan. Others insisted he could risk a recurrence if he pushes too hard during the first weeks of the year. But Alcaraz, visibly motivated by the missed chance to win the Australian Open in 2025, insisted there is no other way. He wants to win that tournament now, not later. And he wants to send a message directly to Sinner. The fight for 2026 will not be a repeat of the past. Behind closed doors, the ATP Medical Council has already advised Alcaraz to avoid sudden volume increases. His physical trainer, Alberto Lido, emphasized that the hamstring issue is not severe but must be monitored to avoid a domino effect. If one part of the kinetic chain compensates, a different injury could appear. But Alcaraz continues to push, repeating the same line to everyone around him. If I want to dominate the tour, I need to take risks. Meanwhile, Sinner is following the opposite strategy. After winning the ATP Finals for the second year in a row, the Italian announced a lighter schedule leading into Melbourne, prioritizing recovery, strength work, and controlled training sessions. He knows his body has been through a grueling year, and after suffering cramps and small injuries, Sinner believes that only a stable and methodical preparation will allow him to survive the long 2026 season. This contrast, the Spanish storm versus the Italian ice, has added fuel to what many analysts call the rivalry tennis has been waiting for since Nadal, Federer, Djokovic. And Nadal himself recently reinforced that idea with a powerful message. The retired legend explained that the competitive coexistence of the Big Three left a cultural legacy that Alcaraz and Sinner have inherited. Intensity without hatred, respect without fear, and ambition without personal conflict. For Nadal, witnessing this duel feels like seeing history repeating itself in a different generation. But Nadal went further. He admitted that the one player who reminds him most of his younger self is Alcaraz. The energy, the explosiveness, the emotional fire, everything feels familiar. At the same time, he acknowledged that Sinner possesses the kind of consistency and clarity that defined Djokovic's prime years. Together, he said, They represent the future of the sport more than any other players in the last decade. While this narrative delighted fans, the ATP organization had a colder, more structural concern. With both players pushing their bodies to the extreme and traveling constantly between continents, the risk of injuries, especially early-season muscular problems, has prompted internal discussions about calendar adjustments. Several members of top player councils have echoed the same sentiment. Tennis cannot sustain this rhythm forever. The Davis Cup debate has emerged as an emblem of the larger issue. Scheduling, travel, workload, and commitments are reaching critical levels. Fabio Fognini's recent comments, claiming that neither Sinner nor Alcaraz will be regular Davis Cup participants unless the format changes, are increasingly shared among high-level staff around the tour. Still, in the eyes of fans, the ATP financial penalties, the injuries, and the structural debates are secondary. What truly matters is the battle that will define 2026. The world is waiting to see whether Alcaraz's ambition will overpower Sinner's discipline, or whether the Italian's methodical approach will dismantle the Spaniard's aggressive plan. One thing is certain: both players are stepping into the new season with opposite philosophies, but the same goal. And only one can walk away from 2026 with a crown of unquestioned dominance.